So my wife and kids took a trip to go see my in-laws, so I am all alone for a little while, and I thought that I was at least going to enjoy the first couple of days. I thought maybe I'll catch up on all the sleep I've missed out on over the last 2 years. I'll have all this freedom. Nope, still waking up at 6 a.m. every morning and have no idea what to do with myself. I'm extremely bored and going crazy, so I'm just gonna LARP on the internet, I guess.
Our nation is too full of those that are crying down. Down with the universities. Down with schools. Down with the churches. Down with teachers. Down with government. Down with the police. Can you build anything down? You cannot. Certainly time in our nation to change our words. And let's begin now to use the word up. Up from all of this filth. Up from this violence. Up from this indifference of courts. Up to the hid battlements of eternity. Up to God.
I love that intro. I originally was only going to use it for my podcasts, but I don't know when I'm going to make another podcast episode, so I'm just going to use it for pretty much every video. It's too dark in here. I got to take off my pit vipers. That's better. All right, so what today's video is about is I'm going to tell you how I would fix this country if I was somehow magically given complete power to do whatever I want. If I was made like supreme dictator of America and everything that I said was what had to happen, and I had complete power over everything, this is exactly what I would do to fix the country. Obviously, this is totally hypothetical and LARPy because it's never going to happen, but maybe it'll help give you a deeper understanding of what my actual views are and what my idea of like a utopia would be. So first off, big tech. How would Spexo fix big tech and the censorship that they do to everybody and how they basically have complete control over what's socially acceptable to talk about and what's not and their collusion with the government and all that stuff? How would Spexo fix the issue of big tech? Super easy. I would completely ban the internet. You can't have big tech if you don't have the internet. Now, I'm sure you're coping and seething right now because you are addicted to the internet and your phone like I am. Oh, why don't you just nationalize the internet? Why don't you just make it so it's like state run so you can control what's on it and stuff like that? No, there's no need for the internet. You could read books. The internet has accelerated all the problems that the Industrial Revolution was already causing and just made us complete submissive, passive cogs. The internet is not a necessity. We think it is because our entire society basically revolves around it. Our pop culture is all about the internet. We're on the internet 24/7 basically, but we do not need the internet. We need to return to tradition. If you're a Catholic and you're like pro-traditional Latin Mass, but on the other hand, you're also pro-internet, then you're a hypocrite. You should be happy that I'm not banning electricity in general. If it was up to me, the entire world would stop using electricity. Except for maybe air conditioning. I think air conditioning is like the one good thing that's come from the Industrial Revolution. The only reason I wouldn't ban electricity is because if I'm only controlling this country and not the world, then there's no way that I'm going to be able to make other countries stop using electricity. And that just means that they're totally going to be able to like overpower us and invade us and stuff if we don't have like any means of using electricity and having some type of like advanced militarization. So unfortunately, we're still going to need some form of electricity. Probably going to still need cars, unfortunately, but the one thing that we definitely can ban is the internet, at least for normal people. Totally ban the internet. First two things I would ban is the internet and pit bulls. Any pit bull apologists out there, shut up. Your time is almost up. Once I'm supreme dictator of America, your pit bull's gone. So enjoy your time with Fluffy, the 800-pound pit bull that eats children while you still can. All right, next topic is immigration. I would deport all immigrants that immigrated here within the last 5 years who aren't married. I know a lot of people would just deport all immigrants, but it's really not moral, and it's also not their fault if they came into this country using the correct process of laws, even though there shouldn't have been those laws in the first place. But I don't think it would be moral if somebody went through that process of legally immigrating to America and like spent all of that money and all of that time, and then they come here and they start a new life and they get married and stuff like that, and then you just deport them. I mean, hypothetically, that would be pretty cool, but I just don't think that's a very Catholic moral thing to do. I think it would be fine, though, if you're just deporting immigrants that came in here within the last 5 years. They don't have a family or they're not married or whatever. All illegal immigrants, of course, immediately deported. As far as like borders and stuff like that, we're going to build a gigantic wall across the entire border, and it's going to have machine gun turrets that are controlled by motion sensors that just totally gun down anybody who steps over the threshold. Maybe we could have like pits with like metal spikes coming out, and like maybe some moats with like man-eating sharks in there, something like that. And also, after we get rid of all those immigrants, we're completely shutting down all immigration indefinitely from everywhere. Not just from Hispanic countries or whatever, everywhere. No European immigration, no nothing. We're going to get back to pre-1965 demographics, which means that the two main ethnic groups are Europeans and blacks, but it's going to be an 85-15 ratio. And we will give tax subsidies to people who can track their ancestors to at least 4 generations of being in America. We'll give them tax subsidies for each child that they have. They have to be married, of course, obviously. Premarital sex or out-of-wedlock sex is completely illegal. We are completely bringing back freedom of association, which means we are going to allow ethnic communities and enclaves to rise up again, I guess. We're going to be allowing people, if they want to mix with people, there could be like communities and neighborhoods where there's a bunch of mixed cultures or something like that. But if you want to be around your own people, whether you are white or black or whatever the case may be, or by religion, however, totally going to allow that. Also going to allow private businesses to choose who they sell to and who they interact with. There's not going to be any nonsense where if you don't bake a cake for somebody for their gay wedding or whatever, then there's not going to be any of that. First of all, there's not going to be any more gay weddings whatsoever. Homosexuality is completely illegal. If you're caught being a sodomite, you're obviously going to jail. I'll get to jail in a second, by the way. That's another thing we're reforming. But yeah, complete freedom of association. Nobody is forced to interact with each other. You could totally be with whoever you want. And as long as that community is living up to the moral standards that will be in place for the this new country, then whatever. They can do pretty much everything they want. They're going to have a bunch of standards that they have to live up to, but outside of that, they can make their own laws and whatever. It's going to basically be Catholic subsidiarity, where as long as they are living by a specific set of moral principles and rules and not going against the moral foundation of the country, and they're not doing anything like power overreach or whatever, then they could basically run their states or their communities however they want. Religion. Getting rid of separation of church and state, that is satanic. The official religion will obviously be Catholic. Anybody who is non-Catholic is getting immediately deported. You either have to convert to Catholicism or you cannot be in this country anymore. Everybody in positions of power and influence must also be Catholic, and every single piece of media and news must be from a Catholic moral standpoint. There is no freedom of religion. All mosques, synagogues, pagan temple worships, anything like that that is not Catholic is getting bulldozed to the ground and being turned into cathedrals. Next up is prison reform. So now with prison nowadays, there's people that like being in prison better than they like being outside of prison because they get used to that orderly environment or whatever. And some people who are like homeless or don't want to do anything, they know that they can just go to jail and get 3 meals and a bed. What is it, 3 hots and a cot or something? People want to talk about how we're too mean to prisoners. We are way too lenient with prisoners, okay? And you want to talk about, oh, well, we should be trying to reform the prisoners and trying to teach them why things are bad. That is not what prison is supposed to be about. Prison is for people that can't act normally in society, who made grave mistakes, and now they're being punished for those mistakes. Prison is supposed to be a punishment, okay? So we're going to make it an extreme punishment. And on top of that, it's not only going to be a punishment, it's going to benefit the nation as a whole. Because instead of just, oh, you're going to jail or whatever, when people go to jail, it's not going to be jail, it's going to be forced labor camps. And what they're going to be doing in these forced labor camps, they are going to be building things for the nation's infrastructure, whether they're roads or buildings or whatever the case may be. And if they're physically incapable, then they'll have to do something that doesn't require physical work. But they're going to have to be intellectually or physically providing labor for their country. For like 12 hours a day. And so here's how the legal system is going to work in Spexo's New America. It is so ridiculously hot in my basement. Holy crap. So basically it's going to operate on a 3-strike rule. So it's going to be mini strikes and full strikes. Mini strikes you'll get when you commit like misdemeanors, like if it's you stole something out of a deli or something like that, or whatever, you get too many tickets on your car, like anything that would kind of basically be considered a misdemeanor in America now would basically be considered a mini strike. 3 mini strikes and then you get 1 big strike. You also get big strikes for any serious crime you commit. So if it's like robbery or assault or something like that, that's one big strike. So one big strike, which is the equivalent of a serious crime or 3 not so serious crimes, one big strike means that you go to this forced labor camp for a year. Your second big strike, you go to the forced labor camp for 5 years. After that, if you get another strike, you are burned at the stake. I'm not messing around. I think that will disincentivize a lot of criminal activity, because instead of going to like some small cell where you're just doing nothing and reading and interacting with other people for most of the day, for 23 hours out of the day, I guess, you're going to be working for 12 hours a day, and then I guess there could be like 4 hours of Bible study or something, and then I guess the rest you could shower and then go to sleep. But for 12 hours a day, every single day, without fail, you're going to be doing manual labor. And most people don't want to be burned at the stake. So that's going to be another incentive to not do crime. People say like, oh, you can't control people's morals through the law. You absolutely can. If the punishment is harsh enough, you can control everything. The economy and taxes. So the economy, well, with our monetary system, we are getting rid of the central bank and the Federal Reserve, all of that nonsense. We are completely nationalizing the money, and every single paper, dollar, or whatever we're going to call it, needs to be backed up by tangible work. So basically, instead of thinking of it as like dollars, think of the paper money as receipts for either manual or intellectual labor. We will neither be a capitalist or a socialist country. We will be a country that's economy works for the people, meaning that our economy and our policies can change depending on what the current situation is in the country at the time. Which means if we're having like a shortage of certain products, then it'll be more socialist, where people can only get a certain amount of that product. And if we have an overabundance of products, then it'll be a more free, open market type of policy. But when we do have free market stuff, it's still going to be highly regulated, meaning that if you want to start a business or a corporation or a media company or anything like that, it needs to be contributing to the well-being of your nation. It cannot be promoting any type of degeneracy. It cannot be going against the moral foundation of our newfound country. It cannot be anti-Catholic. It has to be promoting Christ, health, good moral values, things of that nature. Also, there will be a minimum and a maximum wage, meaning that there needs to be a minimum wage where no matter what job you're doing, it has to be enough to basically maintain your life at the bare minimum. But there's also going to be a maximum wage, meaning that if you are some type of entrepreneur, for example, let's say you start a company, let's say somebody like Bill Gates or somebody, let's say like a Catholic, non-satanic Bill Gates existed in this country of mine, and he wanted to start all of these companies or whatever, and if he started this one company, the most he would be able to make from that first company that he made would be a set amount. Let's just say like $1 million a year or something like that. He wouldn't be able to make more than $1 million over a year. Any excess money that he would get would have to go directly to the government for infrastructure and military projects. If he wanted to make more than that $1 million, he would have to start a whole new corporation. So there's not going to be a limit on how many new companies or corporations you can make, but for every single like endeavor or company that you start up, you can only make a maximum amount of money. So if you want to make more than that, you have to start an entirely new company. I don't know if that's making sense, but basically you can't make less than a certain amount and you can't make more than a certain amount. But so there's still going to be like different classes. There's still going to be the middle class and the wealthy and all of that stuff or whatever. There's not really going to be anybody poor, because obviously homelessness is going to be a crime, and anybody who is like making minimum wage is still going to be making enough to like live and have a home and stuff. But also there's not going to be a lot of like billionaires and stuff, because there's only going to be a certain amount that you can make. You can't exceed that much. Also, everything needs to be made in our country. We're not going to be importing a bunch of foreign different things. Meaning if you want to start a company in our country, you have to manufacture and produce your product in this country. You're not going to be outsourcing labor and stuff from other countries. Oh, health insurance, healthcare, or whatever, there's going to be a basically like a baseline where everybody is entitled to health insurance. But it's also going to be, if you are making more money and you could afford better health insurance, you're also going to be able to do that too. So everybody is going to have access to a minimum baseline health plan or whatever. But if you make more money, you're also going to be able to afford better care. So we're not like totally getting rid of like private insurance or private healthcare or whatever, but we're also not going to let our citizens die on the street. Oh, I didn't mention this with religion, but church attendance is compulsory, and required. My militarized police, because we will have just one state police, basically. There's not going to be like communal polices or whatever. We're going to have militarized state police that have the ability to kill heretics on the spot. Just kidding. But we're going to have militarized police, and they're going to be keeping tabs on your church attendance. So don't miss church, or you could spend a year in forced labor camp. As for schooling, kids are going to be taught the basic necessities that they would need to function in life. They're not going to be taught stupid nonsense things that they're never going to learn. They're going to be taught common math, common English, stuff like that. And they're also going to have to study the Bible and the Catholic Catechism and church history, things like that. And then college is going to be completely different. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to go to college and get these credits or whatever. College is going to work more like trade schools, where it's going to be for specific skill-based trades that you want to learn and you want to work for. There's not going to be like liberal arts degrees and all of the beauty stuff, whatever. Also, I think what would be a good law to pass to make sure that everybody's healthy is like a BMI threshold that you can't go over or something. So if you like have more than, I don't even know what a normal body fat percentage is, I guess, like what's in, let me see. So it looks like the average American body fat percentage is between 22 and 30, and I'm pretty sure 25 is considered obese. So yeah, we're gonna have a threshold of like 15. So everybody needs to be fit, or you're going to forced labor camp. Oh really, Spexel? What's your body fat percentage? I have no idea. Irrelevant. Even if I was morbidly obese, I'm the leader, I'm the dictator. So I control the forced labor camps. I control who goes there, and I'm not going to a forced labor camp. So all right, so far everybody is super religious, smart, in shape, and everybody loves me. I can't chill with you. Everybody wants to hang out with me, but I can't. I got stuff to do. I'm running a country, so I'm sorry. I appreciate the support, though. Foreign policy is all foreign aid completely over with. No foreign aid to anybody whatsoever. We are being completely isolationists. The only time we are going to engage in trading or in any type of strategic alliance or whatever is if it's absolutely necessity, if there's some type of product that we absolutely need for some reason. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that we would essentially need, but if there's something that we desperately need, then maybe we can make some deals with foreign countries to have some type of trade agreement or whatever, or if we get into war or something like that, and we could have like a strategic military alliance with other countries. But other than that, completely isolationist. We don't mess with people unless they mess with us. All right, so that's pretty much the baseline. So we're going by the assumption that I was just magically made dictator. I implemented all of these policies and stuff like that. So now how are we going to preserve this country for the future generations? And here's how we're going to do that. I am going to call to session a giant group of the smartest right-wing extremists, the smartest political people, Catholic theologians, everybody who is basically in support of my ideology, or at least in somewhat of an alignment. And we're going to create this foundational document that is going to basically lay out all of the policies and laws that need to be retained and cannot be altered no matter what for the future of all of our generations, right? So that means the religious policies, foreign policies, forced labor camp policies, schooling, everything that we need to maintain the moral and religious cultural foundation of our society. That's all going to be into this document. It's basically going to be a new constitution. And then we're going to find somebody who is probably like a 8th generation American at least or something. Somebody who can trace their roots in America for a bunch of generations, right? And they're going to be from like a bloodline that doesn't have any history of like disease or mental illness or anything like that, from a very healthy bloodline, high fertility rates, things of that nature. And we are going to get this person who is going to have to be like an infant at the time, or no older than 2 or 3 years old, and we are going to make them the first king. And we are going to raise them from an infant or from very young on what they have to do when they become king. We're going to train them and teach them what they have to do, and then when they turn 18, actually probably when I die, because I'm going to want to remain dictator, unless I want to retire. But until I want to retire or until I die, then they are going to become the first king. And it is going to be turned into the Holy American Catholic Monarchy. And it's going to be a utopia and everything's going to work out great and we're just going to chill and live in peace until the second coming of Christ. I'm trying to think of anything else that I missed. I probably did. Obviously, voting is not going to exist anymore. Heresy is definitely going to be a crime. Anybody that questions any Catholic dogma or something like that. Premarital sex is a crime. Having children out of wedlock would be a crime. If you have a child out of wedlock, I don't know what the appropriate punishment should be, because it would be bad for the child as well. And we can't really force you to get married, because I think that goes against Catholic teaching. I don't think you can force people to get married. It has to be consensual, apparently, because then the sacrament isn't valid. That's going to be a hard one. We might just have to execute the mom and give the kid to a loving family that looks like them, so and never tell them that they're adopted. But I don't know if that would go against Catholic teaching too. I think executing people for having children out of wedlock might be just as bad as having a child out of wedlock. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to check. But yeah, that's a good one. I don't know if you could think of what would be a moral but strict way to deal with people who have children out of wedlock. I don't know what it would be without being too cruel. But yeah, I think that's pretty much how I would fix the country if I was given complete dictatorial control over the nation. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and if you think that I'm too harsh or whatever the case may be. I think that's a pretty good starting point, though, and I think that even though it'll never happen, that I would literally be able to fix this country within like 2 weeks. So yeah.